My name is Athesia Benjamin, and I am an artist in Rochester, New York. My mom really encouraged me as a little kid. Anytime we would go out to keep me busy, she would put a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil in my hand, and that was anywhere, just to make sure like I'm good, I'm out of the way. And as I got into middle school, that kind of stuck, and it became my thing. You know, I was the kid who could draw. So I went to the School of the Arts for high school a year after they got into the new building. And then from there, I transferred to the School of Visual Arts for my first 2 years of college, transferred back home to Rochester, where I finished up my education at RIT. So I have a bachelor's in fine arts studio and a master's in fine arts studio, and I did coursework for a master's in art education. So my personal style, I work very painterly and very figuratively. My new medium now is oil stick, sort of moved away from the traditional oil paint, and that gives me like a really beautiful, sort of immediate kind of drawn mark that's also paint. My subject matter presently, I'm doing a series on Black women, and I'm always in those paintings. I can't get away from portrait work. I used to kind of feel funny about that, but now I see it as more like a visual diary of my life. So you can see me age in there, and I kind of use myself as almost like as a character. My studio practice, you know, I just try to get down there as often as possible. It takes me a while to get into the work, and once I'm in it though, you know, it's almost like the thing paints itself. It's like an obsession that I have to keep going on until I see it through. And that accounts for elements of the painting that might be going in a direction I don't like. You know, I have to make sure to resolve those things before I can move on. So it's really like getting down into it again, like an obsessive work, until I consider it finished. And sometimes that can go on for a really long time. The wall that I'm working on was inspired by the protests that happened in response to the death of George Floyd. Being online, looking at the news, looking at protest signs, of course I'm a visual person, so I'm going to be looking at those signs. I saw a sign that a young man was holding in South Carolina, and the sign said, "Matters is the minimum." And it went on to say what else Black lives are. It said Black lives are beloved, Black lives are sacred. And I was really inspired by that because now that this mantra has been adopted all over the world, now it's time to push the envelope and push the conversation and start to talk about really what have Black lives contributed and what are Black lives now. I saw a billboard that said the world doesn't know creativity without the contributions of Black people. You know, so we really need to start talking about going beyond Black Lives Matter and start to talk about how Black lives have contributed to the culture in America and how America wouldn't be the financial and sort of political superpower that it is without the free labor. So I was immediately inspired by that protest sign, and I created my own sketch. And on my own, I was going to see if I could secure a wall and paint those words, "Black lives built this country," on the wall. Almost at the exact same time, Wall Therapy announced that they were doing a mini grant program. And so I applied for a mini grant. They happened to be prioritizing applications from women artists. And so I received a grant to pay for my materials, a little bit of a stipend, and it all sort of like happened that way. So yeah, this has been a great experience. So my advice for artists would be, first of all, to not judge. And when I say that, I mean not to judge your work, not to judge even your experience as an artist. And that would go as far as to say not to judge your experience as a human being, because then you sort of like put yourself in a box and you're making something like binary, like this is good, this is bad. Just let it all be. Let your work be. Let that mark that you've created, let that be. The other thing, and I think all artists would say this, giving advice to others, and that would be just keep working. You know, you can't get good at anything unless you're clocking in the hours. So if your thing is clay, you got to keep your hands on the clay all the time so you can know that material. If your thing is painting, you have to be in front of that canvas as much as possible so that you can really own that medium and then start to know what do you want to say through it, right? You got to do it to be able to speak your voice through it.